Okay, ladies, can we talk about the Barefaced toning pads? They are my very favorite product of the Barefaced skincare line. I use them morning and night to brighten and tighten my skin, unclog pores, and boost the effects of the other Barefaced products I use. These skin smoothing pads are packed with acids, antioxidants, and hydrating ingredients to tackle dullness, rough texture, and breakouts. A lot of my friends also purchase these for their teenagers who deal with breakouts. You can use our code MOMMA15 at checkout and you will receive 15% off your first purchase of toning pads or any of the other results-driven medical-grade skincare products offered at barefaced.com. Welcome back, everyone. I am delighted to share this conversation with Mattie Jackson. I have so much respect for people who choose to take a painful part of their journey and use it to help others. At just 28, Mattie became a young widow when she lost her husband unexpectedly. We talk about her beautiful new devotional that just came out recently, growing up in a famous family. She's the daughter of country music icon Alan Jackson, her mother's influence on her life, and her newest role as mama to the cutest baby boy. All right, let's jump into the conversation. Mattie, thanks for coming over today.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fun to get to actually talk to you in person. And of course, I've followed your journey with such interest. But I was thinking today, you are the newest mom, I think that's the way to put it, that we've ever had on the podcast. Lots of moms, but definitely the newest. Tell me about baby boy.
Yeah, well, okay, so Wesley Allen after my dad, and Wesley after my husband's grandfather. He was born the day after my birthday. So,
really?
Yeah, June 20th. So at this point, he's actually 14 weeks today. So it's like 3 months tomorrow.
Oh, my goodness.
It's like a lot of different numbers to keep up with. I'm like, how long do I have to do the weeks? Because I'm like losing track. So yeah, probably am one of the newest you've had.
Yeah, for sure. How's the adjustment to motherhood been so far?
I mean, it's a huge adjustment. I don't have to tell you or anyone listening really, but I think I'm grateful. I keep kind of jokingly saying, but it is true. I think we had realistic expectations, because we're, for all intents and purposes, a little older than most people. Like, I've just turned 34. And so I think having seen my sister and having seen the majority of my girlfriends have multiple kids and like be up close to that, I think, and be a part of it, like being an aunt and just being with them. And I think it was realistic,
Yeah,
I think
so you kind of knew what to expect. You knew you weren't going to sleep alive.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe that just makes the shock factor at least less. Yeah. But you know what? Like we've gotten so lucky. Like, God just gave us an easy one, and I don't know if that's a first child thing where he lures you to have more. I don't know, but like Wesley has been an angel, and we've had a good time. We've had a good time with him.
Is it? Are you relating to what everyone says about you just don't know until you have one of your own? Like that fathom of love that is there.
It's wild. Like, I was psychotically swatting mosquitoes over him. Like, when we were sitting outside the other night, because they eat me alive. So I like legitimately prayed during my pregnancy, please don't let him get whatever gene, because it's annoying.
That
like,
attracts
that's superficial,
mosquitoes.
but it's like, I don't want him to get eaten up by mosquitoes. So I was just like so angry at these bugs and I'm like, how much bigger is this mama bear thing gonna get, and it's like where I'm like swatting. That's what I'm saying. Like, I can't even imagine when he's older and just
wait till somebody says something mean to him sometime, or
I know. And then he's like starting to I feel like we hit the sweet spot like 2 weeks ago where he started to respond and smile and laugh
react
and like engage, and it's like, man, that's life changing.
Oh yeah, that alone is when they actually react to you, and that, like, you see them. You bring them joy, like in the way that you smile at them and they react to that. Oh my goodness, there's just nothing better.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, really, really
Thank
sweet.
you.
So you and I were just laughing. So Mattie is married to Connor Smith, not my Connor Smith, but
yeah, it's so, which we like. I don't know. Those paths crossed before you and I ever talked.
I know.
Up. It's just, I was just telling you, like, people, the amount of times people send him your son's song links on Spotify, and they're like, oh, didn't know you sang. And he's like, okay, this is not the first time.
He's like, who is this kid? Like, oh yeah, like those are two very common names, not really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So I I don't think I made the mistake of, but I guess I kind of did. I named him with an ER. He's Connor with an ER, but he always gets spelled OR, which is the much more common spelling. And your Connor is an OR,
It's
so I think
OR,
that
yeah.
doesn't help with the fact that, although he has Connor Smith music behind it, so you'd think that people
you
might
think
know.
people would look, but you just said like my Connor gets tagged in all the. He doesn't even have social like Instagram, and he gets tagged in all the
That
photos.
is so
and,
funny. Yeah, I'll hit tagged photos or to see something, maybe from a show he did the night before, and there's Mattie Jackson. I'm like, okay, I'm a little confused, but okay.
We've been linked from the start.
Yeah. How did you meet your Connor?
He is the brother-in-law of one of my best friends.
Really? So had you known him for a while?
Yeah. Not well. I mean, I knew him, just through like going to her kids' parties and their wedding. We were both in their wedding, in whatever, 8 years ago. And so, I mean, I knew him before. And so it was funny because, on a serious note, that was a huge answered prayer for me because I when I started dating again after Ben passed, which was probably about 3 years, maybe after 2 or 3, I went on a lot of dates with people I didn't know or didn't know my story. And that is fine. But that was such a just that interaction and how to know to keep my heart safe and to protect, just the conversation, whatever. Just
am I talking about him too much? Am I not talking about him
or what can they
enough
handle?
to honor
and
him?
so it that was such a rough thing to try to navigate that I just started to pray, it doesn't have to be someone I am friends with, but just let it be someone who knows my story or has been there.
Yeah.
And so that was such a gift, I think, from the Lord because, I mean, he knew it well, I was in his brother's wedding.
Wow. Did he know
Ben? Yeah, they had met several times. I mean, not friends, but acquaintances.
Yeah.
And so that's really sweet too.
That's so special. And isn't it just like the kindness of the Lord, just even those little prayers through there of, like you were just talking about, even praying over things. I just love that perspective. I'm going to pray that my kid doesn't get the mosquito gene. You know what I mean? Like God hears all of our little things and our big things, right?
It's true. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for me in the last 6 years, been past 6 years ago this September. Is that, man, he's like a God of the details and there is no prayer too big to ask of him. Now the answer is in his hands and that's a whole nother conversation to learn to accept, but there's nothing too big and there's nothing too small. Like he cares about the mosquito prayer, and it may not, he may have my blood and he may get eaten alive and too bad. But I think that is a thing that maybe wasn't a part of my faith life before is just, Annie Downs, who obviously is a huge podcaster, when I released my first book, asked me, just one of my favorite questions she asked people is, what do you know about God that you didn't before fill in the blank, whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Or maybe she asked me, what do you know about prayer? And I said, before it felt like writing beautiful letters to God. Like you would think about it in advance. You would sort of have this laundry list, right? Of thank you for this, help me with this, blah, blah, blah. And then amen, sign off, put it in the mail. Now it felt like constant voice messages. Like it just felt like what changed is that I just talk to him all the time and giggle with him and ask him to help me find a parking place and ask him to help bring me a man that can steward my story and everything in between. And so I think that's what I've told people is dude, pray in the details. Yeah. He cares. Yeah. He cares so much.
And I think that's kind of something I had to learn as well because I found myself, I'd wait till night when I go to bed, lay my head on the pillow, start praying, protection over my children, all the things, and find myself just falling asleep in the midst of, did I ever even say amen? Did I ever, but then I had to kind of learn, you do not have to wait until this set time of day or to carve out, whatever it may be to talk to the Lord. And so now it's the same thing. It's just kind of I see that ambulance on the side of the road. I'm going to pray for that person, whatever that situation may be, but just reminding myself. And the other thing I think is I'm trying to be better about telling someone, oh, I'll pray for you, instead of just doing it right then. What am I waiting on? Right?
I've heard that a lot lately. And I love that. I've tried to be better at that. And just even thinking about, your show and talking to moms, how much you asked about the adjustment, how much you have to have grace to adjust your spiritual life, especially as a mom with a newborn. It's just not going to be 30 minutes of peaceful quiet
Yeah.
at 6:30 in the morning. That's
Yeah.
just out of the cards.
You're
for a
not doing
while.
like a 20-page chapter of a
Correct.
Beth Moore Bible study right now.
Yeah, no, exactly. Thanks, Beth. You're out for a while, like, so I think that's something that I've seen girlfriends of mine struggle with and that I'm having to adjust as well. And that, like, bottom line, he's a dad. Like, he's not expecting you to relate to him as if you're in seminary when you have toddlers, you
Right.
know, like, he just wants you to need him.
Yeah.
He just wants you to say, Lord, help me not strangle this child, like, and say it in the moment. And
Yeah.
so I just, it
Yeah,
takes
that's
a lot of
such great
adjustment.
perspective. Brand new book. It's beautiful. And, you were showing pictures kind of online, and then I got to see you open the book and saw how pretty it was. But then when I got mine in the mail, I'm like, oh my goodness. It's like the most lovely watercolor on the
Yeah.
front. And I even love like just the pages, the way it feels. But it also feels like a ton of work. Content
Yeah.
for 365 days.
Yeah.
How overwhelming did that feel when you, I'm going to guess, heard the Lord say to you, this is what I
Yeah.
want you to do?
Well, a lot of people tried to talk me out of it kindly and thoughtfully, I will say. And just for that reason that a 365 is a tremendous undertaking. And I will say, I think it felt less overwhelming to me because it was such an organic beginning. Like, when I was writing Lemons, that all started as just journaling through grief. And then eventually seeing, okay, I could compose this into something where people can feel less alone in their own grief.
Right.
And so similarly with this, my mom's best friend, Jennifer, gave me a little book that's like this big when Ben passed called Healing After Loss. And it was a daily reflection book. It was not a devotional because it wasn't faith-based, but it was specific to death, to people you've lost loved ones. And so each day for 365 days had a quote or something from someone who had lost someone, and then like 2 little paragraphs and a little meditation or prompt or something. And I clung to that book. I mean, I read it every single day for probably 2 years.
Wow.
Because it was as if a person was simply walking each day with me who had been there before. And I remember reading it and being like, I just wish it was scripture. Like, I love this exactly for what it is, but man, how much more powerful if it was the word of God and
Right.
not just words of people. And so that was the
That's
call,
what this
is like,
is, yeah.
make the thing that you needed. Like,
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's what you write in the beginning of the book is this is what I needed to
what I
hear
wanted.
for daily encouragement when you were on your own journey.
So all that to say, it is a tremendous amount of work, and I'm very proud of it as a writer. Honestly, it was a lot more challenging in that way, but I started writing those entries to myself, 5 years ago, and it sort of just accrued until a couple years ago when I was like, I think it's time to really work on it and see what's here.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, it's beautiful, and thank you for writing it. And I think the best part of all of your story and how you've chosen to share your journey is that you are a voice for young women who have walked this journey, because that is not, when we even think of the word a widower, I think of an older woman who has been married, all her life to, you just don't think of a 28-year-old,
No.
girl who's walked this journey. So for you to be able to be a resource, an advocate for, a voice for, and just to say, there is joy on the other side of this, I think that's such a gift that the Lord's given you.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what I hope I can be, obviously, specifically to younger widows. And, because I had women do that for me, because they may have been in their 50s, but they lost husbands, in their late 20s, early 30s. And God brought me those people. And so to see them 20 years later in lives just rich with joy and purpose and remarriage and children and all these things, it was seeing their life that enabled me to keep hoping for mine. And so honestly, that's what I write in there too. And I've said a lot is, no matter what you're grieving, if you can see another person hope and get to a place of acceptance and healing and life again, then you can hope in the middle of your worst day, because you know someone else who's done it. And
Right.
so I hope that comes through in here too.
And I would even say, just as my piece of advice, if you have not read Mattie's first book, Lemons on Friday, that's where you're really going to hear the details, the story, the heart behind what her journey is, and kind of the why. And I think this book has come out. So I would really encourage people to, I kind of went back and read the ending before our conversation and was just like, and it was really sweet because I could read the ending and see where you're like, I'm praying for a mate. I'm asking God for, I believe that there's joy. I believe he has someone for me. I'm almost getting chills thinking about it because that's what he's given you. And now with the, another blessing and a son, I just think that it's so awesome to see and hopeful for people who know and have followed your journey.
It's unbelievable, honestly. Yeah. I feel sometimes like I've watched it even from the outside, if that makes any sense. Like I've just watched God write this amazing story, and like I happen to be the one in it, and it's just unreal. I mean, I'm super thankful, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Just redemption everywhere. Like everything can be redeemed. I think that's what I would love for people to also see in my life, and that doesn't always look, like mine happens to look right now, which is remarriage and direct answers to those questions. But it looks like redemption and abundant life in whatever way, God has for you. That like the answer is yes. Just the picture is kind of up to him.
Right. Exactly. I'm pretty sure there are two types of dog owners, the ones that let their dogs sleep in the bed with them, and then there are the ones like us that would really rather him not, but every morning when we wake up, Tucker has curled himself up right at our feet, and honestly, he's just too cute to say no to. Thank goodness for the Coat Defense Daily Preventative Powder. This powder is so easy to use. Tucker loves it. It acts as a dry shampoo, and it actually repels dirt and eliminates odors. So Tucker stays so much more clean and fresh since we started using it. You can visit coatdefense.com and receive 15% off your purchase with the code MOMMA15. Believe me, you will notice a difference, and just maybe you'll let your furry friend climb up on the bed every once in a while. I was curious to know if, this may surprise you, but the very first time I ever met you, which was probably very briefly, but it was at the party for your mother's book launch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Would you have been in maybe junior, senior year of high school or college? You were senior in high school. Okay.
I remember.
So you and your sisters, the whole family was there. It was a beautiful event.
The Skirmahorn.
Yes, I couldn't remember where it was. But I remember the Skirmahorn Symphony Center. I remember it was this beautiful room that we were all in, and we were celebrating the release of your mother's book. And so I was covering it as an entertainment reporter, and so interviewed your mom and all of that. But I wondered if there's any influence there. I know there's a lot of influence from your mother in your life, but in general, of seeing your mother step forward in faith and write a book about her journey, if that impacted you to do the same.
That's a great question, and I think it absolutely did, because I think, the obvious remark is I've seen Dad have this career as a songwriter, and like I'm not a songwriter, but I am a writer, and that's always been my passion and my degree and my hope for my life, and so that parallel makes sense. But I also think if that were the only example, that could be really daunting, right? Like, here I am at this, writing Lemons and this, at my late 20s, early 30s, and I haven't been a writer, like I haven't published and that kind of thing. And so I think had I not had that example, to your point, from Mom, who wasn't, a songwriter or book writer or public figure in that same way, to really come with truth and power and like see all the women whose lives were changed, who came on her book tour, who wrote to her, and it was a New York Times bestseller, and to see the power and the impact that had, even though, to be honest, and she would say this, she was reluctant to do that. It was a very vulnerable story to share, and so I think to see that probably gave me enough confidence to be like, well, yeah, I don't have to be famous to do this too.
Yeah, that's so true. I was just wondering about that and just thinking about your mom in general. As a matter of fact, you dedicate this book to her.
Did.
What has her role been in your walk through grief?
I mean, the first word that comes to mind is prayer warrior. That's just like what she has always been. So that really is what she was for me. And I think, she would also say, and I write this in Lemons, like her faith was tested in a way that I think it hadn't been when Ben passed away, because as you understand, and as I am very quickly starting to, the pain of watching your child is worse than any that you would experience for yourself. And so I think she was so hurt for me that it enriched my faith watching her have to trust, because she was more angry for me than I ever was.
Yeah. Oh, I totally get that too.
And so to see her be honestly angry with a God that she loved so much, I think was a really important thing to model for me and for my sisters, of like, this is a real faith. And like, I'm so mad because I don't want you to hurt like this.
Right.
But also, we're going to keep going back to God because he's the one that's going to heal us. And as she prayed just over and over for me after Ben died, like, God, you will give her double portion. You will give her double portion for what you took. And he has. Like, so to see her have genuine disappointment and genuine, just relentless faith in prayer for me in that is what I hope to be for Wesley and for my friends and for my Connor. You know, I want to be that prayer warrior that she has always been for us. And it's unreal to have that as a model.
And it sounds like she modeled for you that it was okay to be mad at God.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, I don't think I'd ever really seen that. You know, I mean, we hadn't been through something tragic. I will say, I referenced at some point too, like, Mom did have colon cancer when I was in college. She's in remission for over 10 years. Praise God.
Yes.
And even in that, looking back, she played it such the protective mother role for us. If she was upset, if she was angry, if she was scared, she didn't let us see that. And I know now she probably was. So even in walking through that, us grieving Ben was the first time I've seen someone of such strong faith allow themselves to be angry and not let that anger turn them away. Just let that anger be real and then draw them back.
What was your dad's inclination as he walked through that? Is he more one to withdraw and a little quieter about it, or how did he also support you?
You've seen his interviews. He's not so chatty. No, Dad is, as he has always been, I just want to say, like, gentle provider. Like, that's who he is. And maybe it's having girls, and, you know, he would have given anything in the world to change it too. And in his way to fight for me was to just be there at every turn for anything I needed at any hour.
Steady and stable.
Yeah. I mean, and he always has been that, you know, from those worst days to our best. You know, he wants to create a space and give us opportunities to thrive and find joy. And he did that. It just, again, yeah, slow and steady, and just in every way being the solid ground, you know, to keep standing on.
Which you certainly needed.
Yeah.
And still do, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all do. Tell me a little bit about just growing up as Alan Jackson's daughter and your sisters, and tell me some of the fun parts, or maybe not so fun as a teenager. I don't know what it would be like, but what do people love to hear about of your stories?
I mean, I feel like I always have to say I don't know any different, you know?
Yeah.
So to me, it was just childhood. But, you know, as I have grown up and look back, obviously, the first thing is just the experiences we got to have, you know, are so unique and unbelievable that I'm really thankful for. Just like places to get to travel and people we got to meet. And, you know, there's pictures of our whole family, you know, from 2010 and 2000 and 2008 in the White House, you know, and it's like, so to have a picture with, you know, the president of the United States from when I was in 5th grade and in 12th grade, like, that's pretty wild, you know?
It is.
That's unbelievable. And
do you remember, like, maybe one of the first times, because it was so normal to you, it's just mom and dad, right?
Yeah.
But do you remember one of the first times when either someone had a reaction, a friend, or you were out somewhere where you're like, whoa, wait a minute, my dad's a big deal?
Yeah. I remember specifically being in elementary school, probably like kindergarten, 1st grade, and Dad having a Nashville show and them gifting our teachers tickets to come to the show. And like, they sent us to school with all his like 90s merch t-shirt for like every kid in the whatever grade it was, 1st grade, and us all wearing them to school that day. And I think that was the first time where I was like, no one else is doing this. Like, we don't have t-shirts with Sarah's dad. Like, what this is, we're the only ones doing this. So, I mean, I have little funny things like that. And like, I remember taking somewhere around that same age doing like, you know, letters of the week. We had like, it was like R week or like S week or whatever. So for S week, it happened to be my week for like to bring something for show and tell for S. And I brought in this like 8-foot long shark mount that Dad had, because he's a big fisherman, and he has one shark. I don't know if that's illegal. I hope not. But he caught in like 1990 in Hawaii that was up in his garage with all his fish. And so he was like, "You should take the shark for S week." So he like had his like manager hauling in this 8-foot long shark, to show and tell. So like things like that, I started to realize like, we're not
one of these
we have
things
some
is not
different
like the other.
Exactly. I'm a big kid, like he always has been, and that's
Who was the bigger softie if you needed like to get permission for something that you maybe were a little leery to ask for?
probably Dad.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
Was your mom more of the disciplinarian?
I think I think Dad was that, maybe too. I think it probably depended on the circumstances or like our age. I was such a typical first child. I was very hesitant to do anything wrong.
Rule follower?
Yeah. So I think I probably slid under the radar with some of that. but no, I think they were not overly strict, and I think really operated on like, we trust you unless you give us a reason not to.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
What are some of the things that you would say that you see now, and maybe even in the last 14 weeks with a new baby, but what do you think you got from your mom?
I think that I've seen this in her, probably, to be honest, more than she sees it in herself, is that she is one of the strongest people I've ever known. And to just bear with a smile and with grace and with just generosity toward everyone who's around her, some of the things that she's walked through in her life that I've witnessed, is such a testament to the way God made her and like the way that she sticks with God, honestly. And so I think I saw that in me, when not to my credit, but I think that was something that God gave me from her, was this sort of just unbreakable spirit, that can bear for other people, even more than she probably bears for herself. And I admire that in her so much. And just a huge generosity, of spirit, just always gifting things, always being thoughtful for people's events or birthdays, and just always willing to be the one to host my book launch party or, get a food truck for a birthday, just like always wanting to be able to celebrate people in that way. I think those were some real good things that I got from her.
For sure. Has it been fun for you to see your mom and dad become grandparents?
Yeah.
Especially, I think your sister has one or two, right?
Allie he'll be 2 in December. So he's like, he's 18 months older than my son.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
That's perfect. Honestly, I'm very excited about that. It's been awesome. Like, especially, and of course Mom loves it. She's great at it, but like, especially for Dad, just to, he had 4 sisters and 3 girls, and he just like, now he has, of course, Wesley's a baby, but like Allie's son, Jack, he carries around a guitar, and literally, if there is any motorized vehicle of in anywhere near him, like, he will cry if you don't let him ride on it. Like, all he wants to do is drive things and carry his guitar. So I'm like, you literally have inherited your grandfather's 2 passions. And to see, it makes him so happy, like he just brings every little toy truck or tractor or whatever to Dad over and over and over
That's so
again.
cute.
So it's really sweet.
And I'm sure yours will be the same way. So
yeah, I hope
him.
so.
Yeah, that's so sweet. What are some of the practical things maybe that in the way that your mom parented you that you see yourself wanting to also practice with your parenting?
Yeah. I think like I said, that sort of openness of hospitality. Our house was always, I think, the one where we had school parties or Easter egg hunts, or people could come after soccer games or whatever, and they just were so honestly overjoyed to like have our friends be a part of our life. And so that's a huge thing that Connor and I want to replicate. His parents were like that too. And so I love that about her. And then honestly, I think just what I admire a lot looking back is quite simply like the family dinner. We did that, I mean, just about every night. Like, I can't think of a night when we didn't, even when we got older and had sports and events and stuff like that. That was such a priority to them. And I think, you know, in that era, it probably was a little more common than it is now. But I think it takes a lot of discipline and effort and is probably, you know, not the easiest thing to really
you have
try
to be intentional. Make it a priority, right?
And I remember that so vividly. And that's something that I really hope we can do. I know it's a struggle. It's already a struggle with a 14-week-old baby, because it's like, are you going to sleep? Are you going to scream?
Yeah,
like,
just even
can we
trying
eat
to
together? Do we take shifts? You know, it's
be on a schedule
the
or
adjustment,
that kind of thing.
But I admire that a lot.
Some of those
too.
traditional values
Yeah.
that you hope that, you and Connor can also implement.
Yeah. And just, you know, our nightly prayers. And again, like, their faith, and that was so evident, you know, a little more externally with Mom, and then with Dad and his music, just even the gospel albums and the way that he has written, you know, so many very poignant songs, you know, at my grandmother's funeral and the loss of a family friend we had, and just how his faith comes through. And September, like the 9/11, where were you? I mean, just the way that
Do you remember that?
Yes, that is a memory that is so unreal, because I was 11, and we were at our old house not far from here, and I remember Dad getting Mom and me, and he didn't, the other two were a little too young, I think, but getting Mom and me, and we went into his study, and him saying, I think it's like a week after maybe, saying, I woke up in the middle of the night and this song came to me, and I'm really nervous to put it out, and I don't know if I should, and I want y'all to listen to it. And he had like sung it into his recorder thing, and he played it for us. And just thinking at that point, like, even at 11, knowing the gravity of what that was going to mean to people. And I think seeing his humility and hesitance in that was such a lesson for me. And his humility is a thing that I've admired about him, probably above most other things my whole life. And so to see him be hesitant to put that out for fear of getting too much credit. He was like, I don't want to be the guy that like looks like I'm trying to silver line 9/11 or save people or capitalize on tragedy, but feeling so compelled that like this was a God thing and it just happened to be him, you know.
Wow.
That was pretty unbelievable. I remember that incredibly clearly.
That is a really vivid memory for an 11-year-old.
Yeah, and I have a horrible memory, I'll tell you. Like, there are not a lot that are crystal clear in that way, but pretty amazing.
And then him playing it on that stage with just that single spotlight, they were so just powerful watching him perform that. I won't forget that. And then I do remember him through the years talking about that story that literally is like he was woken up by the Lord to share, to write those words down and to write that song. Really special.
Yeah.
So what is your hope through the work that you've put into this book? Whose hands do you want to hold this book?
Honestly, I mean, truly anyone who is suffering in any way. That's the word in the subtitle, is like, practical rhythms find hope in suffering. And that can be grief from death. That can be grief from divorce. That can be grief from physical sickness, like whatever is going on in your life that feels like you're just at rock bottom, you know, and you don't know how to get through it.
Loss can come in a lot of different forms.
So many
It doesn't
forms.
have to be a loved one.
No. And, you know, there's certainly content in there some of the days that are very focused on death, because that's my experience. But more than anything, I think it's, again, in the subtitle and what you've said, it's to offer hope to people who don't see hope in their current moment. Because, as I said, that's how I felt. And I had to see hope in the redeemed lives of other young widows to keep hoping for my own. And so what I've written and how it's structured is, yes, it's a daily devotion, but each day is focused on helping readers build one of four kind of muscles to live in these four practices that I think really saved me. So like learning to really wail or grieve honestly instead of skating past it or trying to push it down. Learning to worship daily when you don't feel like it. learning to connect, proactively when you want to withdraw, and then learning to hope, to dream, to believe, to picture for something better when it doesn't seem like a reality. And so I don't know, I hope it would teach people that they have a little bit of agency in those dark seasons to do these small things that will, one day at a time lead you back to abundant life and joyful life.
Which we get to see you enjoy now.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the book, on everything, the baby boy, the sweet husband named Connor Smith, all the things.
We love Connor Smiths around here.
Big Connor Smith fans. Thank you. I've linked Mattie's book in the show notes and to our Amazon storefront on our Instagram page. This is the perfect gift to share with someone experiencing grief. Well, we have some fantastic episodes coming up. Moms from reality TV world, pop music, politics, and so many more. Be sure to follow us on social media to subscribe to this podcast and on YouTube, of course, so you don't miss out on an episode. We'll see you soon.